Hello, this is Jared from the future after we recorded this episode. So, Ethan and I were both very excited that we got a new microphone, but unfortunately, we did not set the microphones up correctly. So, in this episode you're about to listen to, the audio quality is quite bad. It sounds very echoey, and there's not much we can do about it now, so I'm very sorry about the poor audio quality in this episode, but we will try our best to work things out in the future, so next episode the audio should be much better. Welcome to Green Beans, where two boys dressed in green sit on beans and chat about life. I'm your host Jared, and with me is my co-host and brother, Ethan.
Hello.
Yeah, so if you're watching this on the YouTube version, you might notice things look a little different this episode.
Yeah, so we have a new setup. You might also notice this on the audio version too, because we have two mics now. Before we were using one, now we're using two.
Yeah, we each got our own microphone, so hopefully that'll improve the audio quality a little bit, and it definitely allows us to be a lot more comfortable as we're recording, because we don't have to lean in to try to both talk into the same microphone. We can both have our own and just chill back and adjust it when we
Yes, yeah. So yeah, for my birthday was recently, and I turned 19, and if you can do the math, 9 plus 10. Wait a second, that's 21. No, I'm joking. Yeah, so I turned 19, and for my birthday, I got a lot of audio equipment. So that included this microphone and the boom stand that's on it. And so yeah, I'm really excited to finally use these, and we don't have to be huddled together anymore. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. Hopefully this new microphone will allow us to be more comfortable and have a better quality episode for you guys.
Awesome. So let's start off the episode with just a kind of recap of how our weeks went. So for part of the week, Jared, you were away.
Yeah, so for 4 days, I just got back yesterday. I was in Maine with my girlfriend and her family. They have a lake house camp there. And yeah, it was a fun week. They got a new boat this year, and it goes really fast. It's a speedboat. So I got to go tubing and swimming, and yeah, it was just a fun week at the lake.
Yeah, you definitely had a better time than me, because while you were gone, I didn't really do much. I played video games, I worked, and I recorded a video to my personal YouTube channel, which will most likely be up by the time this video is up as well. So check that out as well. But yeah, I didn't really do much. But before that was the 4th of July. I hope everyone viewing or listening had a fantastic 4th of July. So I didn't really do much 4th of July either. There were parades and fireworks, and because of COVID, I didn't really want to go to a parade. And I've never been a big fan of fireworks either. I don't know, they're cool for 10, maybe 20 seconds, and after that, I'm over it.
I disagree. I love fireworks. I think they're super cool, and I feel like really the only time that I get to see fireworks is the 4th of July. Can you think of another time where you I mean, obviously there are other special events, but the only time that I regularly see fireworks is the 4th of July.
Well, when you go to college, some people like to set off fireworks when they're not supposed to.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that, because I've not experienced that.
Yeah, and they do it at night, of course, when everyone's trying to go to bed.
Well, yeah, I haven't seen fireworks I think it's been quite a while, because obviously last year, 2020, there wasn't a big fireworks show in our town like there normally is, because of the corona. So yeah, I thought it was very cool. I went to the fireworks, and I got to see some friends that I haven't seen in a while, because like we talked about in the first episode of the podcast, the past school year was all weird, and only half the school was there at a time.
Yeah.
So there were some people that, like, I didn't go to school with this past year just because of the way school worked this past year, and I got to see them at the fireworks because there were a lot of people there, and it was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't get into fireworks. Like, they're really loud, of course. So I enjoy viewing them from a distance more. But also they're so bright and like they're cool. Don't get me wrong, they're cool. But I just get bored of it really fast. You know, I don't want to watch the same few fireworks going up in the air for 20 more minutes. Like it gets old, in my opinion.
I disagree, but okay.
Um, but yeah, so for 4th of July, I went to my friend's house where we literally played board games for like half the day.
Nice.
And while I was well, actually, let me think, because I ran in the morning, and when I was driving home from my run, I accidentally drove through a parade going on. So the parade hadn't started yet. It started at 10 a.m. and it was like 9:57. And I was driving through, and for some reason the cop wasn't there to like block off the road for the parade.
Oh yeah.
And so I just went through. I forgot the parade was happening, and there were thousands of people on either side of the road just like staring at me. And I'm like, oh.
That's kind of funny.
I feel really awkward. And I had some people people I knew shout at me, and they were like, "Yo, Ethan, what's up?" And I'm like, I just want to get home, man. I don't want to be driving through a parade. But and then I went to my friend's house later and drove through another parade in a different town. I accidentally, like, 2 parades in one day, I accidentally drove through.
Dang.
So that was an interesting experience for sure.
Yeah, I guess the whole state of Vermont got a taste of Ethan in their parades.
Yeah, they got to see the whimsical gray Subaru Impreza. Very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's how my 4th of July went. You know, not really many typical things on 4th of July. Just hanging with the boys.
Yeah.
So let's go to a slightly different topic now, because besides that, like, our weeks weren't that eventful. Although both last night and the night before, I didn't sleep very well for whatever reason, and I woke up with just in pain, which I'm 19. That shouldn't be happening for like another 20 years.
That's like old people that are always like waking up like that. So yeah, what was the deal with that? Why were you waking up in pain?
I don't know. So 2 nights ago, I woke up and my shoulder, the trap muscle, I think it's called the trapezius.
Trapezoid.
Trapezoid.
Your trapezoid.
Your trap. That's the muscle that's like right next to your neck on your shoulder, on the back. That just hurt so much. It felt sore, but like, from what? Because I think I just slept on it weird.
Yeah. I've definitely had that happen before where I wake up and like, it usually is in my neck. There's like one muscle that just hurts or feels a little weird, and it's just, why is that? Who knows? Probably slept on it funny, but I don't really know.
It's like that meme that's like, you finally get a good night of rest, but you did it wrong and your neck's just in pain.
Yeah.
And then it was last night. I wake up in the middle of the night and I somehow have rotated 90 degrees in my bed.
Like you're sleeping like perpendicular to your bed?
Yes.
You mean?
Yeah, I like
the short way?
Yeah, I was on the short way. I didn't rotate, like, I wasn't sitting up. I somehow was no longer on my pillow. My pillow was right beside me, and yeah, I was on the short way. And I was like, how did this happen?
I don't think I've ever woken up like that.
Well, you know, I usually stay in the same place when I sleep, except for last night. And then for whatever reason, I wake up and my jaw hurts, and I'm like, great.
Hmm.
I'm getting old. I'm an old person now.
Yeah. I mean, my jaw hurts sometimes, but it's for a different reason, because my jaw is actually, like, dislocated. I don't really know. I don't know why this is. I think it might have something to do with the... Because I had this thing before I got braces called a pallet expander, which it was like this piece of metal that went in the top of my mouth, up on the roof of my mouth, and then like every day you would crank it, or like one of our parents would crank it, and then like it would widen, and then over the course of a few months, after cranking it every single day, it would make my upper jaw wider because apparently my upper jaw was not wide enough. I don't know. But I had to get that before I had braces, and I think it's when I had that I got like I think it's called like an anterior joint displacement or something.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, anterior means front. So like usually if an injury happens anteriorly, or I mean it doesn't have to be an injury, but anything that's anterior is in the front of anything. So and the opposite of that is posterior, behind. Anterior front, posterior behind.
Yeah. So now whenever I excuse me, it's been like now whenever I open my jaw really wide, it like slides out of place and I can feel it,
Oh.
and like it doesn't hurt unless I like keep it open really wide for a long amount of time. But like I'll do it right now. I don't know how well you can see.
Don't do it right now.
Okay, I won't do it then. But
Yeah, you're gonna like open your mouth and then your jaw's gonna like fall off.
no, it's not that bad. It happens like all the time. It's like a normal thing.
Oh, okay.
But like, yeah, it's been like that for years though, and that causes my jaw to hurt sometimes. So I guess I relate to your jaw pain, but I feel like it's different kinds of pain.
Yeah, I have no clue why mine is. Maybe I just like slept on my face, and then my jaw was just at a weird angle. But yeah, no, I have no clue.
Yeah.
You said that your jaw like dislocates almost.
Yeah, I don't really know exactly what it is, but like my orthodontist explained it using lots of big fancy doctory words, and it just flew right over my head exactly what he was talking about. But like when I open my jaw, it like slides out of place on the left side.
And do you know if that's just because it's wider and it like isn't?
No idea. I have no idea why it happens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's just how it be.
How we be, my guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's like, because what my orthodontist had said is that like once my like braces process is all done, which it is now, I don't have my braces anymore. Then it might like get a lot better, and it might not do that anymore because my like teeth will be lined up properly. But nope, it still happens. But it's only when I open my jaw up like all the way.
So like if you're at the dentist and you
Yeah, the dentist is like the worst time for my jaw because they're like open up as wide as you can, and then I do, and then my jaw slips out of place, and then it hurts when I keep it open for a long time. But
do you ever tell them, or do you ever say like, "Yo, my jaw it gets displaced, so I can't open it all the way," or do you just deal with it?
I just deal with it. Maybe I probably should tell them.
You should tell them like it's uncomfortable, it hurts, and then they could probably accommodate that.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll be like, "Suck it up," oh, and then like open you wider.
Maybe those dentists, dude. I do not like going to the dentist. Dentists are like mean.
No, they're not. My experience is they're very nice people.
Bro, I always get like the hygienist people that are the ones that like actually clean your teeth. A lot of the time I get ones that are like the person doing it will be pretty aggressive, and they're just like going at my gums, and it hurts.
Well, I don't know about you, but my dentist experience, they're nice people. Of course I don't enjoy going to the dentist, but they're nice people, and so It's fine.
Shout out dentists.
Dentists, we appreciate you.
Yeah. Except when you go at my gums. That hurts. Don't do that.
So going along the lines of, I guess, dislocation, one of my all-time biggest injuries has been dislocating my shoulder.
Yeah, and you've done that like a number of times.
4 times. I've dislocated my shoulder 4 times. And it's been terrible every time. It sucks. So yeah, if you remember the vocab that I said a few minutes ago, I dislocate it anteriorly, so it comes out the front. And it's done that every single time I've dislocated my shoulder. The first time I did it was freshman year. I did wrestling for 2 weeks. I did wrestling for 2 weeks.
Your freshman year of high school.
Freshman year of high school, yes. And it was like my first wrestling match. It wasn't even an official match. It was like a skirmish. And I was going against this kid, also a newbie like me. And we were wrestling, and I was winning because, I'm a baller. And then suddenly, like, I didn't even realize that the shoulder had come out. I just suddenly felt like this weird feeling in my shoulder. I'm like, huh, that's weird. And so I go and I pin the guy, and then so he's pinned, and when you pin someone in wrestling, you of course you score points, and then you start a new round. And so we start up again a new round, and then I realized like I can't move my arm.
Huh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this really hurts. And so at that point, like, we already started the new round, so I had to just give up pretty much because I couldn't move my arm. I was in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told the ref, like, yo, I can't do this anymore. And he was like, oh, okay. But I still take that as a win because I scored more points than the other guy, and I pinned him with a dislocated shoulder. So I call it a win.
For the record.
I'm undefeated. Okay? Because I quit after that. Because I kind of had to. Because with a dislocated shoulder, like, the more you do it, the more likely it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
So, after that, it was like a year, dislocated again. Then it was like 2 years, again. And then the year after, dislocated again. Like, it just keeps on coming out.
Yeah. I've been there, I think, 2 of the times you've dislocated it. I wasn't there the first time at that initial wrestling match. And then I don't think I was there the most recent time you did it.
Yeah. The second time I did it was actually the least painful because...
Was that in the bouncy house?
That was in the bouncy house. I dislocated my shoulder in a bouncy house. And, yeah, that one was the only time I was able to get it back in myself as well. All the other times I had to have someone else do it. But yeah, we were in West Virginia when that happened. We were at a Boy Scout National Jamboree, 2017, and yeah, bouncy house was not very kind to me. And then the third time was, I don't know if the third or fourth time was the worst, because the third time we were up on a mountain snowboarding, and I hit a sick jump, but then I didn't land it, and I fell right on my shoulder. And that was quite an ordeal too, because at the time, you couldn't drive yet?
No, I was only I was 15 at the time, so I had my permit, but I couldn't drive other people.
Yeah, and I drove up to the mountain, and
we were there with a friend.
We were there with a friend, and the thing is, so right now we both drive standard. We both drive a manual transmission car. And did we have the Subaru or the Scion back? It was the Subaru.
It was the Subaru, yeah.
So we had the car we have now. It's a manual transmission. And our friend didn't know how to drive it. Or he did, but wasn't confident enough to,
drive it down a
drive
mountain.
it down a mountain. You know, it's icy. And so I was off in an ambulance to the hospital to get my shoulder put back in.
Yeah. So then me and our friend were stuck at the mountain, and it was just the two of us. And your car was there, but I couldn't drive it because I just had my permit at the time, and he couldn't drive it because he didn't really know how. So then our dad had to come, like, drive all the way up to the mountain from home, so then he could drive your car down the mountain, and then your friend drove our dad's car with me back. And then our grandparents, I think, had to go meet you at the hospital.
Yeah.
Because our dad had to come up to get us at the mountain.
I remember that, yeah. And that was also the only time they gave me pain medication, too. All the other times they didn't. They gave me morphine, which is an addictive substance. So it's good in hospitals, but that's about it. Because it's a painkiller, so it's an interesting feeling. And then the fourth time I was at college, I was playing badminton, and I just went for an overhead smash, and shoulder comes right out. And if that usually doesn't happen if you have strong shoulders. Oh, but my shoulders suck. They're terrible. They dislocate all the time. My right shoulder does. My left one hasn't yet. Fingers crossed. And so, yeah, luckily, my college campus is literally on a hospital. So, I got there really quick. But then they wanted to do a bunch of x-rays with my shoulder out. And I'm like, come on, can you just get it back in?
Yeah, because isn't it like the longer your shoulder's like out when you dislocate it, like the more it starts to hurt?
Yeah, because the muscles and tendons all are stretched out, and they're in a place they're not supposed to be. And if you get it right, like get it back in nice and quick, it actually doesn't hurt that much. But if you wait like an hour or more, then it's like, oh my goodness, like my shoulder is so sore, it hurts so much. And that's what it was like when they were doing the x-rays. Like they wanted to move it around in really uncomfortable ways. That just, it was so painful.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Is dislocating your shoulder, I mean, it's happened multiple times, but is that like your worst injury you ever had?
I don't know if it's the most painful, but it's definitely like the worst to my body, I would say, because my shoulders will be damaged for the rest of my life. Because I can strengthen them up, I can get surgery on it, but there will always be a greater chance than regular people who haven't dislocated their shoulder for my shoulder to come out. No matter what, there's always a higher chance.
Yeah. What would you think is your worst, like your most painful injury?
I don't know. Well, this is kind of a compounding injury. But in 6th grade, we were outside for PE doing like football or something.
Like at school?
At school, yeah. And someone threw a football at me and I like tried to catch it and it hit my finger and jammed my finger and I essentially just broke my finger. I didn't know it at the time, but I broke my finger. And then one of my classmates, he just comes over with a football right after I break my finger and chucks a football right at my crotch. Right in the nuts. And I'm like, dude, why? And of course, the combined pain of breaking my finger and getting a football to the nuts, I'm bawling my eyes out, man. That was awful. That hurt so much. But like, I can't really think of a single most painful injury. I mean, that was like combined, but yeah. And you've had some bad injuries as well, right?
Yeah, I'd say my worst injury is from when I was in 6th grade.
No, 6th grade. It's the time to get injured.
6th grade. But I was snowboarding with a few of my friends, and we were at this mountain that I've never been to before. It's called Smugs, and it was my first time ever there. And we had been snowboarding, and some of my friends skied, some of them snowboarded. I snowboard, and we had been going for a little bit, and then I was like towards the top of the mountain at the start of a run, and I was going pretty fast, and I guess I got a little too cocky because I saw this like ice patch on the ground, but I figured like I could just zoom right through it and I didn't have to slow down or anything. And I was very incorrect. As soon as I hit the ice patch, like I just like went flying, and then I like slammed down on the ground, slammed on my wrist on the ice.
Ooh.
And yeah, immediately my wrist hurt like really bad. And I had before this I had never broken a bone before, so I didn't know what a broken bone had felt like, and so like my friend who was behind me like watched the entire thing play out, and like he stopped for me, and I tried to like get up, but like I couldn't, because like as soon as I put any weight on my wrist to try to push myself up, like I just couldn't. So I figured like there's no way I'm able to snowboard down the mountain, and so I just like unstrapped from my bindings and I just walked down the mountain, which sucked because like I said I was towards the top of the mountain when that happened. So it took a really long time, and two of our other friends that were with us, because the guy that watched me fall, he like stayed with me and like walked down with me, which was really nice.
Good.
But the two of our other friends that we were with were like already ahead of us at this point, and they didn't see it happen. And so they got to the bottom of the mountain, and they didn't know why we were taking so long. And so they were just waiting at the bottom of the mountain for like an hour waiting for us, and they were so confused.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but eventually I got down, like this entire time, like me just walking, carrying my snowboard, and my wrist being all in pain. And so then I get to the bottom of the mountain, and I like am done for the day. I tell my friends that I can't go anymore, but they still want to go some more, and that's like fine. They went without me. And then my friend's mom, who was there with us, like in the lodge, she took me to the first aid like people at the mountain, and the guy came and he like grabbed my wrist and he like looked at it a little bit, and then he was just like, oh, it's just a sprain. And I was like, okay. And like I didn't know any better. This was the only guy who I'd like seen about it, and so he said it was just a sprain, so I was like, okay, I guess I sprained my wrist, not a big deal, it'll get better soon.
Yeah.
After that, I was done snowboarding for the day, and then I like went home later in the day, and my like wrist still hurt really bad, but you know I figured I would just like wait a few weeks and it would feel better. And like I even like in the next few days, like I went to like a water park and was going on water slides and stuff
With your broken wrist.
with my broken wrist because I didn't know it was broken,
Oh
and
my
so
goodness.
I just figured like it'll be fine, and so like I was going on water slides and doing a bunch of stuff, and then I think it had been probably because it was at the start of like February break that I originally hurt the wrist, and then once we got back to school like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I played clarinet, and I like went to band class at school, and if you don't know, it was my right wrist and that I hurt, and a clarinet, you like support the entire weight of the instrument with your right wrist. So like I like was trying to play it in band, and like holding up my instrument hurt so bad, like it was so painful to play. But I felt, I don't know, I just felt like I was being like a wimp or something, and I was just determined to keep playing. So even though it hurt really bad, like I just kept playing because
Yeah.
I thought I was just gonna stick through, and I thought I was just being over dramatic, and I didn't want to turn it into some big thing where I couldn't play. So yeah, then I think it was like maybe a couple days after that, I had put on a wrist brace or something, just because my wrist was still hurting, and then uh, I was like with one of our friends because our friend's mom is a doctor.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we were hanging out, and then while we were there, my dad was like, "Oh, you should show her your wrist and see what she says." And so I take off my brace that I had on. There's a huge just bump, like in the middle of my wrist,
Oh
like
no.
a third of the way from like your forearm, like your wrist to your elbow. Like it's like probably from my elbow down to my wrist, like 2/3 of the way down. And there's just a huge bump there that I had never seen before. And so like we show that to our friend's mom, who's a doctor, and she's like, "Oh, you gotta get that looked at." So then the next day, my dad took me to urgent care, and we waited around a little bit, and then they took an X-ray of it, and then I'll put a picture of the X-ray up on screen, so if you're watching the YouTube, you can see what that X-ray looked like. But pretty much my radius, which is one of the two bones in your forearm, was completely split, like
Oh
in
man.
two, and it was apparently it had like gone crooked at like so it was like at an angle, and it started to because I had gone like 2 weeks without getting it looked at. It started to heal at that angle and like form new bone, healing it at that angle, which is really bad. So the people at urgent care were like, "You have to go to the emergency room immediately so they can fix this." And then they wrapped my arm in a pillow, in a pillow brace, so that way, which felt a little silly because I had just gone like 2 weeks with like just going around with my broken wrist, and
You know
now,
that probably made it worse doing all that stuff.
oh, I'm sure
Maybe
it did.
the initial impact didn't like completely split it, but going to a water park and doing all that stuff probably made it so much worse.
Yeah. So then, they wrapped my arm in a pillow, and then my dad drove me to the emergency room. And once I got there, they had to like give me an IV and stuff, and then they like completely put me under. And then they didn't tell me that this is what they were doing at the time. They didn't, because I don't think they wanted to scare little sixth grade Jared. But what they did while I was under was they had to re-break my arm, because, like I said, it started to heal all crooked. So then they had to break it again so they could line it up correctly, and then they like wrapped it up and like put it into a temporary cast, and so then it would be secured there and it would heal correctly. And I didn't find out until afterwards that they broke it again. Um, but
Did they have to break both bones, the ulna and radius?
no, just the radius.
Just the radius.
And
again?
apparently, it wasn't even just my radius that was broken. Apparently, also some of the bones, like I think the carpals. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
So in your hand, you have your fingers. Those are your phalanges.
yeah,
And then you have below that your metacarpals.
yeah.
So those are in the hand, and then right around the wrist are your carpal bones. That there's a bunch of tiny little carpal
Yeah,
bones.
so I broke like a few of the little carpal bones, like in on the side of my wrist as well, and yeah, so I had to have a temporary cast that it went like above my elbow, so my arm was just stuck at like an angle, and since the cast went above my elbow, I couldn't bend my elbow, and I had to have that temporary cast for like I think it was like 2 weeks, I want to say, and then after a couple weeks, I got that off, and then they put on like a normal, like what you would think of when you think of a cast, and I had that for I don't even remember, at least a month.
Wow. When the doctor broke your arm again, how did Dad describe it? He was like, the scene from Harry Potter.
So yeah, well, no, not exactly that.
Not
'Cause
exactly that?
That's what movie is that? Chamber of Secrets?
I think it's Chamber of Secrets.
Okay, so
where
yeah, in Harry Potter, the second Harry Potter movie, there's like a part where like Harry falls in Quidditch, and then I believe it's like Gilderoy Lockhart like tries to fix it, but like messes up the spell or something, and then like Harry's arm is like bending all like like it's
Yeah,
rubber.
he accidentally got rid of the bones in his
Yeah,
arm.
that's not mine. Pretty like you know how your wrist like bends up and down. Like you can hold out your arm right now with your wrist and just bend it up and down.
Yeah.
My dad said because my dad was there with me at the emergency room and he like was watching the entire thing even though I was completely out and. He said that like the way your wrist bends like that, it was doing that halfway through up my arm, and it was bending like there. Because the bone was completely separated, and I'm glad they put me out for that. Because I can't imagine if I was awake for that, how terrified I would have been.
And I'm also glad they didn't tell you, because you would have pooped yourself.
Oh yeah.
If you knew that beforehand.
Yeah, it was just an awful experience, and yeah, I will say I genuinely think this is gonna sound really silly, but I genuinely think this is what I'm about to describe is the worst experience of my life. So when I was at the emergency room, before they had done anything, they gave me an IV, like I said, into my arm, and so that way they could like feed me and like the medicine and stuff for like putting you to sleep.
Yeah.
And so I had the IV in my left arm, and then my right arm was broken, and then I had to poop. Like I had to go to the bathroom.
Oh no.
So I had to like just getting up out of my like bed at the hospital was or at the emergency room was like so difficult. Then like in the bathroom, like one arm had an IV in it, so I couldn't like move it or like bend it a bunch because there's like a needle inside of it. And the other arm is broken, and I had to go to the bathroom and I had to like dude, worst poop of my life. Like I think that bathroom experience took me so long to try to do everything, and that if somebody asked me what the worst experience of my life would say, I would say it is that.
Did you not ask for help?
Nope.
You could have asked. You could have just.
Dude, I was in 6th grade. I didn't want to just like ask some.
You could have been like, "Yo, Dad, wipe my butt."
That's. I wouldn't have done that.
Dude, you don't have mobility in either arm.
Yeah, well, I did it, and it sucked, but yeah.
If that were me, I would have been like, "Yo, Dad, come wipe my butt."
I don't think like I was probably like 12, probably 12. Yeah, I was 12 at the time.
12.
So like I feel like a 12-year-old. I mean, I can think of like right now, I wouldn't want someone else to wipe my butt. So I can't imagine 12-year-old Jared would be down for having someone else wipe his butt.
They do it in nursing homes.
Yeah, but that's different.
Yeah. My roommate in college worked in a nursing home, and he had to wipe old people's butts.
That's so gross.
Yeah. He told me stories about it. Ooh, no. Look, I appreciate that he loves working in a nursing home. It's just not something I would want to do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. So, I think it is time for Ethan's fantastic, fabulous, ferocious, fumbling fossil facts.
Okay.
You like that alliteration? So, today I have not a dinosaur fact, but a fact about a mammal. It's extinct. So, it was, yeah, it's a mammal. And it's called Intellidont.
Okay.
And so I do have artwork for this. My friend Michael, he submitted another awesome piece of artwork. I really appreciate it. It looks great. Thank you, of the Intellidont. So it's kind of like this pig-like creature, but not really like a fat pig, like a skinny pig. It's been nicknamed the Hell Pig.
Okay.
And the Intellidont, people were like, "Oh, it's a pig." Well, doing some analyses of the fossils revealed that it's not related to pigs, but it's more closely related to whales and hippos.
Okay.
So, whales, for those of you that don't know, their ancestors used to live on land. All mammals used to live on land, and then some went into the sea. Like, your whales, dolphins, stuff like that. So, Intellidont is one of the ancestors of whales, essentially.
Huh.
Isn't that cool that, like, whales used to live on land, and then one day they're like, actually, I want to swim.
I don't think that's how evolution works.
It didn't happen in a day. It took millions of years, but I think that's just really cool.
That is pretty cool.
And that's called being secondarily aquatic. Moving from... Because fish are primarily aquatic. They've been aquatic evolutionarily since ever.
Yeah.
But secondarily aquatic is when something is aquatic, moves to land, and then moves back to the water.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's my fossil fact for today.
And yeah, I think that pretty much brings us to the end of today's episode.
Awesome. So yeah, I really like this new setup. It is a lot more comfortable to sit in. And I had a blast today.
Yeah, me too. So thanks for tuning in and watching or listening. Once again, the podcast is available pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. Apple Podcasts.
We're making a new one. Apple Spotify.
Yeah, it's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, and the video version is available on the Green Beans Podcast YouTube channel. So this brings us to the end of episode 6. So anything else you want to say before we close it out?
Check out my YouTube channel. It's That E10 Guy. I post dinosaur content and a few other things as well. You'll have to check it out. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. We'll hope to see you in next week's episode.
Bye-bye.